Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Lead Podcast, where our intention is to support the development of future hospitality industry leaders. Really excited for this conversation and just around the genuine topic. We're talking about the power of empathetic leadership, why leaders focus on people, not just performance. You saw me look down. I wanted to read that title, so I got it right because we put a lot of time into it. It's not about what's reading on the paper, but it's really focusing on the intent of having a conversation around empathy, which isn't really common. And in that, Amy, it's great to see you.
Great to see you as well, Mr. Rolfe. I want to introduce the legend, Phil Crawford. This guy, man, he brings the energy. He's got the executive presence when he walks in the room. He also supports a lot of the stuff, the nonprofit work that the industry is doing. So, and I don't think I could do it justice. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil to introduce himself. And thank you so much for being on. We're very honored because I think this empathetic leadership is something, the empathy piece, the EQ piece that the industry needs a little bit more of at the leadership level. And again, emerging leaders, how do they learn that? And so we'll get into that. But Phil, who are you?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I appreciate always doing these. It's great. And you're right. This is about giving back 100% and learning from what we'll say a couple decades. We don't want to go too deep. Back when I had hair, it was kind of fun. But right, this is going to be a great conversation. So thank you, Matt and Amy, for the time. I've been blessed to be in an industry that I love passionately since I've been 15 years old. Do some math, which will be kind of fun. But I've had an amazing crew with some amazing brands, working with some amazing leaders, right? From the CIO roles and CTO roles of restaurant chains such as Yard House, which is now part of Darden, to Shake Shack, and to the amazing brand that has become, to Godiva, to my most recent assignment, which was a CKE that owned Carl's and Hardee's. I've also had the privilege to work in a variety of different boards and some different industry events, such as you have mentioned, with regards to philanthropic, but also some next generation technologies that are now kind of cornerstone and staples in the industry. So I've been around the track a couple of times, which is great. I think it's always exciting to see the track spinning in different directions with different cars coming on and off the track. And that's what kind of keeps me energized and like jazzed about this entire industry. Little jazz hands for you. But I'm stoked. Like it's been a great journey so far, and I can only continues to be up and to the right, which is what we all want to do.
Love that.
And Phil, this one, because you shared the experience, and just for the audience, a lot of people watching are looking to advance their careers. And very quickly, you just shared such a remarkable career track or path. Is that something that what portion of that was set out by yourself, and what portion was set out by the teams or companies you worked with to see the opportunity to continue to grow and progress? How did you get to where you are?
I mean, honestly, that's the old adage of hard work and persistence get you to where you're at. But I think also it's aligning yourself with your own personal values and your own personal morals to the brands, right? I've worked with some amazing brands that have amazing cultures and amazing values that are similar to mine, whether it be your work ethic or your personal life, right? I think that in and of itself is the catalyst for where you want to go in your career. We can always chase money. Like we can always go chase the golden unicorns. But if you find something that truly makes you happy and truly aligns with who you are as a person, that in itself is a unicorn. And if you do that and you have the right value sets and you align yourself with others that have that same vision, I look at the Shake Shacks of how it's blown up. Yeah. And Randy Grudy just had done a podcast on something similar. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We had the like-minded people around, just like Yard House, Harold, and Steele and Jeff. Bring the right people together, and it's unlimited possibilities. So I get blessed to be part of these people that have a similar kind of passion for the industry, but also in life. In the extracurricular stuff we do, like me being an avid, punk rocker / surfer. So like you find your kin, as they say. That's kind of the journey it is. Because any of us can go left or go right, but sometimes staying course in the center is the way they want to go.
Have you found that as you talk about all that leadership, the emotional intelligence or showing empathy to the team led to some of the success of some of the brands that you've been with? And if you are a manager listening to this, how do you find that skill set? Is it a skill set you can grow? Do you believe? Lots of questions there, but how big of a piece do you think that is right now? I always say it's more important now than the IQ piece, but what are some examples you think that you could give of how do you learn that? How do you attach yourself to that? And how do you kind of lead with that?
Look, I think part of it has to be ingrained in who you are as a person, right? You have to be able to kind of let your guard down and also expose yourself as a human inside of these environments. But at the same time, you also have to have the humility side of who you are as a leader and allow you to be present with everybody, regardless of title, rank, or position. I think of that kind of camaraderie you have with these individuals, and you break it down to the most basic level, really instills those core values of who you are as a leader. And back to the empathetic side of it, so many of us can walk in and bark from the ivory towers of orders, orders, orders. But if we have to put ourselves in everybody else's shoes, that leads so much more to the next generation of what you actually want to do and become and build. Because you may not know what they're going through on a daily basis. You may not go through what their personal life is, and they have to come to work every day. At the same time, if you're trying to get people accomplished, you got to get them aligned. And the best way to do that is treat people with respect and integrity. And I think that in itself has become such a successful thing we've done at all these brands, right? We didn't always know what we were doing, but at least we walked into these things together, and we had the empathy, but we also had the respect and dignity that everybody deserved. And because of that, if you made a mistake, we learned from it and move on. You weren't going to get scolded and shafted for doing something wrong. But at the same time, do something amazing, let's celebrate it and let's champion it. Like, both those dynamics are incredibly important. I think every leader nowadays has to have. Like, we all wake up every day. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We've all been washing dishes. Heck, I've done it. We've all done it in some kind of capacity, especially in the restaurant business. Don't forget where you came from, where you started. Like, somebody gave you a shot one day, and you take those tidbits of who they are as leaders, and hopefully you evolve it into yourself to become your own individual leader. But at the same time, there are key characteristics why you think you see such success in certain organizations, but also certain leaders that are so dynamic and so personable that they have these cult followings of great leaders that come out of them and build the next generation of restaurant and/or technology.
And I love, because there's so much that you share in that for me around, because some of the brands you've worked for, companies and teams, are performance-based, right? KPI-based or strategy-based. But there's this thread in everything you share around people development. Was there a moment in your career where you were able to see not just chasing the performance metric, but really shift yourself, or somebody shifted in their investment in you on the development side? When did that change?
That's a great question. I think it's actually early in my career, before really more on the technical side of our business, not so much on the operations side, being on the merchant side of it. Early stages, I think there was a couple of companies. He's no longer with us in person. He's actually passed on, but he actually saw a young kid. They kind of had a passion for technology, and gave me an opportunity that nobody else would have given. Because you kind of run into these, monogamous kind of environments where there's so many people trying to clamor for a role or a position. And he gave a young guy a chance and said, I'm going to give you that chance, but I'm also want to take you under my wing and be that mentor. And being that mentorship in and of itself allowed me to grow and try different areas of opportunities. I never had the opportunity to do so in the past. And I think that same kind of thing moving forward is incredibly important. We have to have that ability to take that next generation, a chance on them, and foster them. Now, let's be honest, it doesn't always work out. That's right. We're going to have those issues where they just don't. Some people you thought were your next, home run hitters, but they're hitting singles, and they're happy hitting singles. I love singles. Singles are as good as home runs. Enough singles get you run scored. But there are times that you take a chance with somebody and they surprise and delight you in so many ways. And I've worked for people, and people have worked for me, that I now have seen foster their own growth and become CIOs or VPs of IT or different parts of the business, because you gave them a chance or nobody else would. And you gave them the opportunity to stand on a pedestal and shine.
I think that's important, because sometimes an emerging leader, as a manager, they're assistant manager, they're a GM, I don't think they understand the influence and the impact they can make on somebody's career. They can get somebody interested in the hospitality space or, the tech space, and start bringing them along and seeing what they're capable of, and educating and coaching them along the way. And really, at the end of the day, that is our job as leaders, is uplifting and elevating those around us and bringing them along. And it's not, to your point, it's not our responsibility if they don't get there, but we need to give them all the tools we possibly can in our tool belts that we got. Because as you said, Phil, and that kind of gave me chills, everybody has had somebody help them and bring them along. And there's a lot of people that could have given up on, myself along the way, and I wouldn't be sitting here with you. But there's so many people that believe in you. And I also think people earn mistakes. It's okay if they falter at something for a minute, let them learn from that, and then hug them for a minute, a corporate hug, company hug, and then move them up. But I do think that there is this responsibility of the world's moving fast, and I think everybody got a little bit more worried about themselves, and I think we need to take 2 steps back and reflect on what we can do to impact all those around us, because they do want to get to become Phil's and Matt Rolfes of the world.
You're absolutely right. And giving them the platform to do so is incredibly important, which is why, you and I have been so involved in different industry organizations to allow that to happen, because I think you're starting to see a little bit of a paradigm shift where some people aren't given a chance and they want to go into different industries where they might be given a different chance. It's our responsibility as leaders now to set up the next generation for success and to keep an industry and a passion that we have such drive for moving forward. And there's people leaving our industry and going to other industries and vice versa. And the question is why? Why are they bailing? Is it something in our industry itself? Or is it sometimes people leave companies because not the company, the leader that they work for isn't giving them the chance to grow and foster? And I've always, and my career has always said, look, some people are in roles because they need a role, but that's not their passion. You got to align the role with the passion. And that's your job as a leader, to understand what their passion is and help them feel comfortable to express it to you. I've had people under my team that wanted to be developers, but they're help desk techs. Like, they're not happy. You can see it. Give them a shot. They might blow you away with their skill set and capability. And you're like, it's the greatest move ever. People are like, how did you know that? I'm like, sometimes you just got to go with your gut.
Yep.
And I love the side, because I want to go back to, if you don't mind, because you shared about somebody who mentored you, and you could almost, I don't know if you saw it, Amy, but you almost see the emotional reaction, Phil, as you shared. Like, you could really see the connection to that person. But what that brought me back to is this theme. I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and she started talking about empathy and vulnerability and all these pieces. But the side is, I think we can read it, but you just showed it. So how does empathy and being a humble leader show up in the workplace? I think we get the logic of it, but the execution or the emotional follow through might be a little bit harder for some watching.
Yeah, I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but it's okay. It's okay if I butcher it. But there's a great leader that I've actually done on my Words of Wisdom postings as well, by Craig Rochelle, who's an amazing leader. And people would rather follow a leader that's always basically real than one that's fake. And I think that in and of itself, it's okay to show emotion. I think we get into a company situation where you don't want to have that kind of influx of red face when you feel embarrassed, or white face when you're scared kind of approach. But I think having that and having the relation that you have with people shows that you are human. Like the gentleman I mentioned, you're right. Back in the day, between his son and himself and his daughter and so forth, started POS companies, have been in the industry a long time with NCR, and started his own thing. Like, you build relationships with these individuals, and it becomes not just a work relationship. I know we use the word family in our business, incredibly important wise, but the beauty part of it is that with those relationships we build inside of work and outside of work, it fosters that growth. It fosters that personal touch. But more importantly, it fosters a relationship that you may keep in touch with down the line. Back in my Yard House careers, even before then, I still talk to these people. I may not work with them. We may touch base. Like, I'm going to go hang out with a friend in a couple of weeks anyways that I've worked with 15 years ago. Why? Because we had an emotional connection, right? As two gentlemen that have gone different paths in our career, we had a human connection. We had a basic core connection, which really is the ethos of what hospitality is, right? In my personal opinion, it's about making that connection. And I'm a techie, right? The moment tech comes in and breaks that emotional connection, we kind of go left versus going right. But I think that really is the core construct of why I get so, probably wear my colors on my sleeve too many times, which is, some people say it's a bad thing. I think it's a great trait. I love it. I'd rather be who I am, and you can respect me for who I am. Or if you don't like it, it's okay. No harm, no foul. It's just who I am.
I love the authentic self show up. I think because it is. I mean, we are. as I said, I saw Dolly's play last night, and the whole theme was she is who she is. And along the way, Porter Wagner, all these people kept trying to change her. And I think that it's important for leaders in the industry to show up as their authentic self, be empathetic, right? Bring others along. And also look in the mirror a little bit on learning on what you can do to elevate. Because I agree with you, Phil. We've lost a little bit of sexiness in the industry. I think people forget that they can be a Phil, they can be a Matt, they can run an organization, they can go from one department of being in tech and moving over to training department, right? Like there's just, the opportunities are endless if you've got that leadership piece and you're working on yourself. And so I do think you can learn EQ, you can learn that grit if you want. You're not technically born with it, but you have to drive your own bus. And there's a little bit of the field right now that I think they'll say, well, my leader didn't develop me. Nobody, I think, developed Phil. I think Phil went after it and got to where he wanted to go because he kept saying, teach me more, teach me more, teach me more. I think that's critical right now with people that really do want to get ahead. I don't know your thoughts on that.
100% agree with you. I mean, many people don't know is I went back to school a couple of years ago, back to Harvard. Why? People were like, why would you do that? It's about continual self-education. I read constantly. I'm on podcasts. Even Gemini has this cool thing now where I can download basically PDFs of websites, and it gives me a verbatim and creates a virtual podcast that I can listen to when I'm running, right? It's also doing one-on-ones with team members, like all these different things to make me better as a person, but not just at work, but also at home, with my family. And my oldest is going away to college that, goodbye. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to miss him.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great thing, but you're right. Like the continual self-work you do will then parlay into your work environment as well, because people, and again, I say this with a grain of salt, everybody wants to learn and become a better person. I humbly believe, right? And I think it takes, to your point, Amy, the onus upon yourself to go do so. We could all be couch potatoes and we could all get on ChatGPT and just kind of let something else kind of dictate who we are. But it's the internal fire and burn that I have as a person to become something better and leave the world eventually a better place than I found it. Just like every assignment I've had in the restaurant space, I want to plant a flag and I want to walk away and say, you know what, I inherited it as A and I've left it at Z, between a product, an institution, a team, whatever it might be, a better place end to end. And the way that happens is because you have that drive internally, but you also then have the relationship in your leadership style with your teams.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I love is like that drive, and your energy is contagious. So you can feel it through the call right now.
It's the coffee.
Watching.
It's the Kahlua in the coffee.
This isn't just water. Yeah, so keep me going. But looking at future leaders, what I often hear, we heard this a little bit at the remarkable event that we just did in Dallas at the LEAD event. Leaders feel like they have to know the answer. Like, where's the transition? And this is what they say, kind of like, I feel if I've got to ask another question or if I don't know the answer, I might be overlooked. How do we show up with vulnerability and stay curious and continue to learn, not only in our self-development, how do we ask questions in our work environments?
Yeah, like, I think it goes back to the catalyst is leaders have to have every answer to everything. Like the word, I don't know, can't be in their vocabulary. I disagree with that. Yeah. Like, I think if you lead by example first and foremost, and then you frame a challenge like in a collective, but you encourage, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like debate and shared learnings from those things.
That healthy conflict, yeah.
Yeah, that focus on outcomes and not just methods in and of itself creates that fosters of continual education, continual process of improvement. If I as a leader were to walk in and say, it's my way or the highway, I would not be successful in my career at all. Yeah. There are some leaders that work that way. That's not my style. I would never want to work for somebody in that way. I think the success of it is, especially in a situation where you're at fault, you make a mistake, is you own it. You own it end to end. But you also, at the same time, if somebody else makes a mistake, it becomes a learning process, right? And you teach them to own it and to accept it and to build upon that in a better, positive way. I think that in general, too, if you look at how leaders act now when things are up against the wall, going back to the emotional thing earlier, you have a very distinct thing to put up your guards and say, it's not my fault, word is no, all these different barriers. I think it's a unique opportunity for us to actually challenge ourselves and challenge our teams to accept the fate of what it is and overcome your initial emotional ties and find a solution in the problem. And I think that having that ability to take a step back, review it in a calm manner with your teams and say, problem A equaled problem B, but let's find a solution to C kind of approach allows you then as a leader to instill that in your teams. And then whatever issue they have at home, at work, personal life, relationships, it carries forward. Because they see, oh my gosh, the sky is falling a moment. And we're all running around with their hair cut off, like the old analogy of like, this is fine with the dog with the fire in the background kind of, meme. Like, you know what? It's really not that bad, guys. In the overall scheme of things.
No one's losing a limb. I always say no one's losing a limb. We'll figure it out.
Correct. You're actually in a great place if you put yourself in perspective to different parts of the world that you may not have insight into right now.
I love that framework. I think that's a key piece for people to take away is the A, B, the C piece.
Yeah. It's important.
Yep.
So now we want to move forward to some action steps. So part of our goal in our podcast is to give some great context. I love the storytelling and I love the examples, but now we want to move forward to, just in your advice, if we could stay on this topic of empathetic leadership or anything that might have surfaced from the conversation here, but what do leaders do as they look to develop themselves in their role, step into the opportunity? And one thing you kind of shared there's this comfort you have in your own skin. Mm-hmm. Whether you shared as I could be liked or not be liked, but I'm going to be authentic to myself. I'm going to let you roll here on just what are a few examples you'd recommend to the audience?
I know this sounds kind of rudimentary, but one of the things that I've always done is I call it walk the floor, virtually or physically. Yeah. Like people have no idea what it means to them that the first thing you do is you walk into an office, and Harold Harmon back at Yard House is one that actually instilled this in me. A simple good morning and taking your first 15 minutes of the day and saying how you're doing. Amy, how are you doing today? Or Matt, how are you today? Good morning. Means the world to everybody. Yeah. And then also ask the other part of the question. How can I help you today? What can I do to make your job easier or your life easier? Right? And those two key components in and of itself, just to start your day, sets the day tone correctly. I mean, we've all probably seen the video of, I think that was the Admiral that gave, maybe Admiral, if I correct him wrong, gave the speech about making your bed the first thing in the morning from the University of Texas. It's those same simple things, I think, that lead the day off, but also shows, again, back to our topic of leadership, that you humanize the element and you humanize the experience end to end. Therefore, later in the day, when you start delegating tasks, you've already built some constructs of trust. Because you're not just a figurehead, you're not just a C-level executive walking around going to your ivory tower. Yeah. You've humanized it. Say, my name is Phil, you're Matt, you're Amy. And you bring it down to it. It's an even playing level, which I think is incredibly important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Love that.
And then I'm going to be a bit selfish here for myself, if that's okay. And I hope this question, there's one thing, there's this perception of busy. So, we talked to some, and I'm sitting here.
Sorry, I got to go.
Looking at the career track, doing the math, and it's remarkable. But in our session recently, I had a chance to ask the audience a question, say who feels overworked, overwhelmed, and overcapacity. And I would say 90% of the room put their hand up.
Sure.
With a group of leaders. And I think it's a reframe opportunity. Because I admire Amy as much as anybody that I work with, and her ability to get her, how she connects in a human way, how she supports people, and how she still gets all the stuff done. But maybe if you could both answer for the audience and both here, how do you get over the perception of busy, both internally and externally to those around you?
And I'll start. I think, and I'll take this from a team employee standpoint. Yeah. You should never be too busy for your team, period. Yeah. You should always make structured one-on-ones with your team or some kind of structured, encouraging upward feedback, active listening validation to me. Because in essence, we're all busy in some case, but you can never be too busy for the team that makes you who you are as a leader. And I think that is a simple fact I think a lot of leaders have gotten wrong. I'm so busy, I have meetings, I can't get lunch with you. I can't get a coffee. Like, I can't take a phone call.
Yeah.
No, you choose to not take the phone call. You choose to take the meetings. The issue is not busy. You've not set your priorities straight and correct. That's my opinion on being busy. I'm busy, yes. I wake up way early and go for runs. I go work out. I do conference calls, but there's always time, and there always should be time for that one-to-one connection with the regular team members, regardless.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on being busy. It's how you prioritize your day and what you call your busyness.
I love it. And maybe before I let you share, I want the audience to notice that Phil just did an energy shift there on purpose to get the message through, because it came, like, you came stronger in your message, right? But that's your leadership style, how passionate you are about that balance. But I want us to watch that, right? Success leaves clues, and there was intention behind the tone. We all make choices. Amy, what about yourself? How do you find time to get it done?
I agree with Phil, and I think it is intentional, specific time that is carved out. There's also things that bubble up and you have to maybe shift. I had to shift today, reprioritize, but it doesn't mean that you don't make sure that, and if you gotta spend an extra hour than you normally would that day, that's fine. Nobody's too busy for other people. What I do think is, and I agree with everything Phil said, so I'm just gonna add this. Everything also is not an hour.
Yeah.
On a calendar. And I keep, like, when people put stuff on my calendar, I'm like, do we need an hour for that? Do we need 20 minutes? Is it a 30 minutes, a 45? What is it exactly you need? Because you can be more productive with your time. The old school, and I think people still do it, is an hour is a meeting for everything, and just kind of retraining the brain. Because I don't want to repeat what Phil said. I agree with weekly one-to-ones and touch base with your teams. And as you know, I do the heart checks and making sure that their head and heart are there before I deliver sometimes a big change in the organization, or they're going through something and you just can't that week. Like, something's got to shift, and we've had some of that happen recently. With some things that are going on externally, but coming into our business. So as you think about that, we're in the people business. You got to make time for our people. You got to develop the people. You have to be intentional with your time, but everything isn't an hour meeting.
I just want to thank you both. And I think, anybody who's got to this point of the episode, that's one of the most powerful 30 minutes. Phil and Amy, thank you so much. Remarkable storytelling and sharing.
Thanks, Phil. I mean,
my pleasure. I love this kind of riffing.
This guy's in Amsterdam and then Nashville, and he runs over to all these places in Europe, and I'm just like, can we just tag you down for like 30 minutes? But and it looks like you got a great pool behind you. I'm kidding. I'm sure that's some Mr. Techie. You built a pool behind your head kind of thing. But
yeah, this is my office. Don't you know that right there?
Your office is mostly on a plane, I'm sure. But all the impacts you've made not in organizations, I'm sure you have, but also outside, and so your help with, branded and just supporting lead and the organization, and giving time, even monetary and volunteering, has just been critical to some of our success. So we really appreciate it.
Look, it's my pleasure. I've said it probably until I'm blue in the face, not just a blue shirt on. Like, I love this industry, right? And I think we all have an obligation to give back to something of an industry that's given, us so much. I would not be here with the family I have, the home I have, or anything without this industry. And I think people forget that. So whatever I can do to give back, not only help the industry, but also the next generation of those that may have a passion for this space, 100%. So I appreciate you guys having me on this. It's always awesome to riff on topics that I'm so, to your point, Matt, passionate about, and get like jumping up and down. I feel like I'm having a Tom Cruise moment on the couch sometimes, which is good.
Okay, let's slow that down.
Well, I want to thank you, Phil. Thank you, Amy, as always. And this is another close to our latest Lead podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.